In the month of November 2021, the Prime Minister withdrew the three farm laws. This move was not something that was being anticipated, and it actually came as a surprise. Earlier, during September 2020, the government had passed three farm laws, which were considered as major reforms in the Indian agricultural sector. The three farm laws primarily gave provisions to the farmers to sell their produce outside of the APMC mandis, including in the private mandis, and also created framework to affect contract farming in India. In the third law, there were some amendments made in the Essential Commodities Act. It can be mentioned over here that while passing these laws, the government was not aiming to solve each and every problem that is related to the Indian agricultural sector. Rather, these laws were needed to be considered as one of the steps towards fixing the Indian agricultural sector. The government was of the belief that these laws would increase the farmers' income, as these laws would have provided more provisions to the farmers for marketing their produce, and more options generally means that the farmers would have got more chances to increase their income. However, right after these laws were passed, major protests started in various parts of the country, particularly in the states of Punjab and Haryana. While the merits of these protests has been discussed in one of the previous videos, during these protests, a significant chunk of the protesters ultimately demanded that these laws needed to be fully withdrawn. And although it can be mentioned over here that a more reasonable thing would have been to maybe make some amendments to these laws such that these laws become palatable to most of the protesters and also to the government, in a way that if at all there were genuine concerns of the protesters regarding these laws, they would have got addressed. It also needs to be mentioned over here that outrightly withdrawing these laws seems unjustified. However, since these protests keep on dragging continuously for more than a year, and there were instances in which these protests got violent, the government buckled under the demand of the protesters and eventually repealed these laws. The decision to repeal these laws would definitely be considered a step taken back by the present government of India. And this might also set a precedent for the lawmaking process and the implementation of regulation in India. Any set of protesters now, knowing that they can influence the lawmaking process in the country, if they are able to corner and pressure the government at least as much as the farmers did, will try to get their demands conceded by the government. This decision will also be considered as one of the landmark events of Mr. Modi's tenure as the Prime Minister of India. But in terms of the prospects of the present central government under the BJP, it can be said that although these protests and this decision of the government to repeal the farm laws may influence the result of some of the state elections, but since the government has not been at a significant fault and has been well reasoned both while introducing these laws as well as repealing these laws, the present central government under the leadership of present Prime Minister will still have decent prospects in the 2024 general elections.